got our phone book. We've got our baby food jar filled halfway. A second one, they're labeled 1 and 2. Got another one labeled paint. Open that up, set that here. Got my paper towels from my hands get messy. I like putting these over here on the side. Got my paints. My Dixie cups. First thing I want to do is get my number 8 brush out. Clean a little bit of the oil out of it. Clean off the handle, any oil that's on there. Clean my fingers. And I'm going to dip it in that number 1. I'm going to tap it in there just a little bit. I'm not going to press real hard. Just want to soak that good with some of that thinner, some of that mineral spirits. Clean that out. Make sure it's cleaned off. And just as an extra clean, I'll put it in the second one. Like that. That brush is ready. White on its own doesn't cover very good. Unscrew that top. And I usually put in 1 squirt per letter. In this case, I'm going to need some extra of this paint, so I'm going to do a bunch extra. I need this to last a while, so I'm going to put that much in there. One of the things that you can do to make white opaque and to last longer is put some other colors in it. 1 drop of black helps make it opaque, and a couple drops of blue. Watch that. That's it. Just barely dip that in there. That's it, 1 drop. I use this screwdriver only for paint, nothing else. I don't want it to be contaminated with something. So what I'm going to do is mix this up. And it's still white, but it's a little dark. It's a little not white. But as far as the sign's concerned, it'll look white against that red background. But it'll cover so much better having a little bit of this other color in it. And it is a little bit dark. I'll put a little more white in it. Make sure it's all good and mixed up, and it's ready to go. Everybody does this different. Sometimes they'll take a thinner and they put it in there and get it the viscosity they love. I don't do that. I think it's a better way to paint. I don't do it because it's just not the way I learned, and I don't care. So I put a little paint on there. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that talk about this, where you mix the paint, get just a barely touch that thinner. You load up this brush, and what you're doing is you're filling the brush with paint. I'll press on it a little bit, make sure it's on, make sure it's happy. It's a little thin. I can feel it as I go. That's one of the things you're doing this for, is you're A, mixing the paint, but B, just feeling it, feel how it goes. And you can go right here. Like when I start this letter, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to drag that along there. Still a little bit thin because this white needs to cover pretty good. Black, yeah, you can paint however you want. It'll come out great. So that brush is ready to go. You'll know when your brush is not ready to go when you go and it makes a big mess. And then you can learn from there. But let's get started. I'm touching the board with my little finger. Now I'm going to clean up the little bit of mistake I made at the beginning there. Actually, that looks really good. But I'm still going to, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm painting it just outside the line a little bit. I want it to be a little bit fatter than the design is. Reason for that is these letters are going to get an outline. And it's got a little bit of a woo to it, so now I'm just going to go along this edge. How hard you press on this is if you press too flat, it'll flatten out like that. So you press just down a little and drag the whole thing along. I stopped because I lost track of my line right there. So I'm going to go like this. And I brought that up sideways and slid sideways to bring it to a point. I set this in here, go really flat, and because this turns, I'm going to twist the brush a little bit and then lift up and drag it off and lift off. So that is some of the practicing you can do. This is getting outlined, so I'm not worried about it, but forget it, man. I am worried about it. I want to make it pretty. I'm going to touch that up just like, I'm going to go slow and stop. I'll talk about it later, but sometimes a line just doesn't flow just right, and you just want to just add a little paint inside of a spot. And there it's prettier. Oh, look, I pulled it off too quick, and some hairs are going on the side, so I'm going to fix that too. I'm just going to go over that so the lines look nice and clean. I'm out of paint on the brush. Put some more paint down, drop a thinner. This line starts out really thin, so I got to press real lightly. And I don't want to run my finger through this wet paint, so I have to lift my hand up and go like this, but I have to start out thin, which means equals light. Watch this. I'm bracing my hand here, barely touching, get that the width I want. Now it gets a little thicker, so I can press down up to there. I want to make this just a little thicker, like that. And then clean up the end of this. A little bump in it there. I want to make it look good. A lot of sign painters paint on an easel sitting up. The whole time I did sign painting as a business, I had a stand-up easel. Sometimes I'd sit in a chair and I'd paint all my lettering upright. Well, now that I'm just doing it for fun, sort of in my retirement, in my semi-retirement, I like to sit down. Oh, I can see now that, remember I said that the white goes on a little thin? Even with all this extra color in it, it's a little thin. So I'm going to add a little paint here to make sure it's good and solid and lift off. As this paint dries on here, it gets harder and harder to touch this stuff up. So when you get a little section finished like this, if it needs anything, touch it up now. There, that's loaded up pretty good with paint. When I do this one, I want to be able to go all the way around and do it without stopping. So if I came here, there's plenty of paint on the brush. I lift up, twist the brush, turn it again, and go sideways up into the O there. I drug it a little sideways, so it got a little fuzzy on the end. The paintbrush was a little dry. I'll just clean that right up. Do the other side of it. Looks like this. Slide it sideways. Flatten. Go. Follow that line like I'm supposed to. And this line is a lot rounder. This corner is a lot rounder. I'm pressing very gently to keep it light, or thin rather, and make ends meet right there. There's a little zigzag there. I'm going to touch it up. A famous sign painter and custom painter, an amazing man named Howard Zeller, taught me the difference between a good sign painter or a good pinstriper and a great sign painter or a great pinstriper is a great pinstriper will clean up the ends, touch up and clean up the ends of his stuff and try to make it perfect. That's what we're going to do with this sign. Starting at O, slide sideways. Now I can pull straight. That O is pretty round, so I got to really twist this. I want it to flow into the L, but I want it to go round, so I got to twist a little bit. Raise up, go thin, and into that. This side of the O, same thing, flatten out, go. I can stay around it and just match that, or not match it, but meet it on the inside and just barely make sure that's clean around. Oh, I got a little bump. Perfect time to show you this. Watch this. Oh, geez, I don't want that there. So I'm going to go like this. Stuff cleans up real easy. I certainly don't like having to clean stuff up. But when I do have to, it just wipes right up. There are a bunch of tricks to how you can clean up your stuff. We'll learn those on the way as they happen. There's a lot of stuff you're going to do that I don't talk about. And you're going to say, Max, why didn't you talk about this? I screwed this stuff up. I'll go, shit, we'll have to fix that. Like I told you earlier, it's all about fixing stuff sometimes, especially when you're new. So this O comes into a point right here. So I'm going to set my brush right there, slide a little sideways, get it going, fatten up, press, twist, raise up, and go into this guy. It's a little lumpy, so I'm going to just do that, clean it up a little bit. Okay, a lot. I'm going to sit there and pick at it till that line is perfectly smooth looking. It's not perfectly straight, but perfectly smooth looking. There's a hair from the brush came out. This is an older brush. I'm going to wet it. I'm going to grab that hair and pick at it like that till I can get it out of there. Dry my brush a little bit. Come back the other way. I don't know if you can see that. There's a hair on there. I'll knock it off of the brush. Come back and clean this up. I plan on putting some airbrush in this later, so I don't want that big old hair looking all ugly and shit on there. Hear that? That looks really good. Yeah, 2 or 3 signs. Once you paint 2 or 3 signs, getting this paint to the viscosity that you like best for painting, it becomes a natural thing. Because when you start dragging and it's dry, you go, oh, I need a little more thinner. Or if it's too wet and it starts to spread, you go, oops, I need a little more paint. And so you pick it up really easy. This H has a little point on the end. So I'm going to do this. Get to there, turn, flatten out, come toward me. Stay inside the lines there. Go on this one, start out flat. Press it down. Come along these lines. And it's rounded into a point here. I should have drawn this stuff better. I could barely see it. You'll probably do a better job than me. I'm kind of old on this stuff. I can barely see my lines. If I can see them better, I'd Or if I was painting upright, it'd be a little easier to see this stuff. I just prefer to paint this way. I've got good light. Now the H has got that super thin thing going there, so I'm just going to start out the way I usually do, barely touch it with the brush, and try to keep the same amount of pressure until I meet the end of it down there. And what I did is I got to the bottom, turn a little sideways to meet that point. Turn a little sideways and raised up, meet the point. Paint's a little googly there. I flatten it out so it's nice and even looking. And the line doesn't look so good. So I'm going to, it's okay if it goes a little fat. So I'm going to just I turn the brush a little sideways. And straighten that out. A little bump right there I want to flatten out. There, that looks good. I got enough paint in there. I'm just paletting just for fun. Here's the same thing like the bottom of the L. So I'm going to try to do that in one stroke. Turn a little sideways. Twist it all the way around so it rolls up. Instead of doing it in a bunch of different strokes. Yeah, sometimes you got to learn a little slower. It takes extra strokes. I'm pretty good at this, but even I couldn't do it. I got to touch it up. I'm not the best sign painter on the planet, but my signs look great. My stuff, my lettering and my pinstriping looks really good. It's not as fast. If I did it every day, if you do something every day, you're going to get good at it. Okay, big, kind of a longer point on the A here. Much longer. Start way over there, slide it way sideways. Like that. Couldn't see, so I had to stop. Come like this. It's got the same thing as those other ones, but it's a little tighter on that A. So I'm going to straighten it up so it goes into that H real pretty. Real pretty. And then I'm going to start here because of that arc on the A. I'll bring it down there. And then go back and just touch this up. Here's one of those thin ones. We're going to start out thin and stay thin on this. I want you to know something, that if you screw up while you're doing this, at any time, you just go, you know what if I just said, man, I hate this letter. I hate that stroke. I freaking hate it and I want it to go away. Take this, you get it real tight on your finger. Take that, get it real tight on your finger, and you wipe in a curve like this. So you pick up paint. I'm going to go like this. But I picked up all of that paint, and I get to do that stroke over again. There's a little bit of a stain of the white on there. I'm going to be going back over it. And my pencil's gone. But I know where it is. This is getting kind of dry here. So I'm going to do again here, a little extra thinner over here. I'm going to do that stroke again. I'm going to start out without pressing down too hard. Just going to set that on there and pull it. I know I need to go here. Round it up where it meets. Clean up that little teeny bit right there. Done. It's a little thin in spots, so do that. And then this last bit. Now it ends kind of in a point. So I'm going to go like this. I didn't follow the pencil there. I don't care. Still looks good. Round that up. Get my hand up here because I know I need to turn. Right there. Turn that baby. Round it. And bring this into a point. I want to do it like this. Make this rounded on the end. And there you have it. Your sign now says aloha. You could be finished right now. Hang it, it's done. We, on the other hand, we're going to do a bunch of fun stuff to this. But just when I held it up in the light, it's got a couple of overly thick spots on it. So I'm going to just gently, oh, there's a hair. I saw it in the brush. Grab that before it ends up in my paint. I'm just going to gently flatten that out a little bit. A couple little lumpinesses. You don't want to wait too long. If this starts to set up, it won't be dry for 3 or 4 hours. Dry to the touch. It won't be cured for, I think it'll be dry, completely dry in a day, but it'll take a week to cure. And so, yeah, you don't want to touch this shit at all until like the next day. A lot of sign painters, they'll put their airbrush in there, they'll start outlining right now, they'll just start a sign and finish it, put the border on and everything. We aren't that good. You and I are going to wait till this is almost bone dry before we start messing it and do the next thing we're going to do. Okay, I'm not going to paint any more or anything else with this brush or change colors with it. I'm going to clean up. That's all I want to do today. So this is how I do that. I might need some of this color. That's why I mix so much of it. And it's going to develop a skin on it like we talked about, and I'll still be able to use it. Here's my thinner for my painting. It says paint on it. Put that over there. Don't need that. This is where I squeegee out some of that paint. Take my book. Flip it over. I'm going to dip in my number 1 bottle of thinner. Oh, pressed too hard too quick. Because I want to squeeze the paint out in here. I don't want it all going in there. I have to clean this about every 3-4 times I use it. I try to make it last as long as I can. So I like that. Squeeze the paint out. And when I say squeeze, I mean gently. So it's pretty clean. So I'll dip it in this other cleaner one. Doesn't look cleaner, but it is. And I'm not jamming it in there really hard. I'm just barely touching the hairs on the bottom of the glass. And you can press on it like that and see what paint's in there. Or you can squeeze right here with your fingers right there. That looks clean. I'm going to just play it safe. Like that. Press against the furrow. Not too much. And that's nice and clean. I'm going to spin it just to dry it. That's pretty dry. I'm leaving this on here for now. I'm going to take my oil, which is that brush preservative, which I love. Did I mention that? Same thing. Dip it in there. Don't want a lot. And then it's just like you're loading it up with paint. Only you're loading this brush up with oil. Now I can see some paint. I'm going to squeeze just a little bit of that back out. Put some more back in the furrow like that. And that is good and oiled. That's ready to go away. There's a drop of color left in there still, but I know that that color is oiled, so I don't have to worry about it hardening in the brush. Still do that again. We're going to put this away. It's got plenty of oil in it. That's where I keep my brushes. Put some in it like that. You want to set your brush down and slide a little bit and drop it. At the end of this row here, I've got a little bit of a raise that I drop the end of the brush on. So the brush is at a slight angle. Keeps the bristle flat, but it also keeps the whole brush stick handle from loading up with oil, and that's where I keep my brushes. I do the same thing with my pinstriping brushes. You guys are gonna this video ran a little bit long, so I didn't have time to put the airbrush in it. So in the next video, I put in the airbrush and outline our Aloha sign. After this sign, I'm going to do some pinstriping. See if I can get you guys involved in that. You're going to have to buy a brush or two, but we'll get it going.